Welcome everyone to our next Healy and TAP partnered webinar. We are very excited to be here today. My name is Jody. I am your producer for today. So I'm going to be here to help you in the background throughout the entire hour to hour and a little bit. So I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that the chat is available for you to use at any time to talk amongst yourselves. We're going to do our best to kind of watch the chat, but mostly that's something that you guys can use to talk to each other. If you do want to send a private chat to me, I believe you can do that. So feel free if you have any questions. If you have questions for Shannon about the content as she's teaching today, we have turned the Q&A feature on, and it even looks like someone's already put a question in, so I'll go look in just a minute. And that's a great place for you. If you have a question about something she's teaching and you'd like some clarification, you can put those questions in the Q&A. Now, we probably won't get a chance to answer those during the webinar period, but what we're going to do is collect those questions, make sure they get answered throughout the next how many 13 webinars? I believe we have more coming up. So there is lots to come, folks. So that's important for you to know. We want you to know that we have a Spanish translator available for you to access if you need it. And the last thing I've already said, but I'll say it one more time, the webinar is being recorded and it will be available for you guys on demand to watch yourself again or to share with your team. As soon as it's available, that information will come out to you and it will be shared in your groups. Okay? Without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Shannon. Have a wonderful webinar.
Hey everyone, it's so great to be here with you again. I'm so excited that you've joined us for this 60-minute or so webinar. Really, these have been designed for you. They're going to be packed, you know, not just today's, but the ones that are upcoming with valuable insights that are really meant to support you as you share your Healy, as you share or expand your business. And we've definitely collected or collaborated with your Healy team to make sure that the topics are relevant to you. Our intent is to make sure that you have the knowledge and the tools to build a thriving and sustainable business. And that's really important to us at TAP. This is something that I feel incredibly passionate about. And so, during these sessions, you're going to discover some effective strategies, share your love for Healy in a way that you can feel good about, and also that your prospects will feel really comfortable and good about as well. I want you to feel empowered, create an environment where everyone can thrive. And so we're going to get started today and talk about starting strong. Before we do, though, what I want to do is I want to, if you were on the webinar last week, you probably heard me ask a question, and I wanted to know on a scale of 1 to 5, how you showed up today. 1 being you'd rather be somewhere else, or 5 being you are so excited you couldn't wait for today's webinar, and you're fully present. I asked that for 2 reasons. 1 is obviously I want to meet you where you're at, and I want to have an idea of how you're feeling and how you showed up. But 2 is for you, and that's the most important, and that is so that you can reflect on where you're at and you can actually let go of the competing priorities, the things that are grabbing your attention, so that you can be fully present and walk away feeling like you got something out of today's training. So taking a look at the results as they come in, fantastic. Lots of 5s. Wow, exciting. But there's some others that are lower in numbers, and that's totally okay. Look, we can't always show up at our best. Lots of times we have things outside of our control. Sometimes, things are going on in life where we feel like we're being, pulled in different directions, and that's okay. What I would do is invite you to let go of that just for the next little while, so that you can get as much as you can out of today's session, so that you can walk out feeling like you've grown. And that's exactly what we've created these webinars for you to do. So wow, look at that. Over 50%, Jody. at a 5. So that's impressive. Thank you so much for that. Jody, have you closed the
I sure have. I
poll?
probably
All
cut a few
right.
people off, but there's lots of numbers coming into the chat as well, and they're also just great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, folks. I appreciate kind of knowing how to meet you. So sometimes when we see those lower numbers, that means I have to up my game a little bit, bring a different kind of energy to the room so that we can get you to raise those rates up just a little bit. Okay, so let's get started. Last week, we talked about modern sales, and we hope that you found it interesting. We hope that we gave you something to think about. We hope that it gave you something to reflect upon, and it provided some action items for you to really get clear on why you got involved with Healy and what are some of the things that are getting in your way. Today, we're going to talk about starting strong, and we're going to talk about the importance of your start. Now, you may say, well, this isn't new. I've been doing this for a while. That's okay. Sometimes we need a bit of a kickstart. Sometimes we need a fresh start. And so what I want us to do is to really get on a place where all of us have the same foundation, so that we're talking about and sharing Healy in a cohesive way, in a credible way, in a way that makes people feel really great about the company that we work with, about what we do, what our products can do, and how we can make a greater impact. And so what I want us to do today is really focus on that. But I do want to show you further down the road. We've been doing these every week pretty much until the middle of July, and then we'll start on monthly basis. But what we wanted to do was really, I guess, leverage our own start and build some energy so that you were getting something new every single week, and we could build that foundation of knowledge. So nobody's waiting around thinking, well, I need to learn more before I can start. We don't want you to feel that way at all. So we will be talking about onboarding next week. It's a great session, very informative. If you have new people in your team, if you are building your team and you're not quite sure how to bring people on, listen, this is a webinar you do not want to miss. So make sure you mark your calendars. After that, we're going to explore our core values, which is really, it's a transformative process. We're going to give you some worksheets to work on so that you can really think about who you are and what drives you, what you're willing and unwilling to do for your business. And then we're going to talk about our mindset. And we're going to explore some of our beliefs and behaviors and how that shows up in our day-to-day, how it shows up in how we build our business. These are all really, really relevant foundational topics that we want to explore with you over the next coming weeks. So I hope you're excited. Like I said, mark your calendars. By all means, do a screenshot so you don't forget what time these things are happening. All right, so let's get started on our topic today. How you start your business is often quite important. And like I said, don't get caught up in the fact that maybe you've been doing this for a little while, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting some strong foundations. Now, some of you may already have those strong foundations, and you're here to see if there's anything new to add to your toolbox. We're grateful for you to be here. We also want to remind you, as you're building your teams, to also think about people that are joining you who are interested, so that they can get a good start too. We'll get more into that next week when we talk about onboarding, but it is really important for you to understand what it takes, and knowing that, as you build your business, you can only grow as tall as the foundation is going to allow. So if you have a shaky foundation, it may stunt your growth a little bit, and we don't want you to do that. So how do we set a good foundation when it comes to building a direct sales business, when it comes to building our Healy business, when it comes to expanding our networks? Well, it kind of comes down to some of these things that you see on the screen right now. Finding the right tools, that can certainly help. Honing the right skills, using proven resources. So, we don't want you to have to guess. We want to take the guesswork out of it for you. Don't take shortcuts. This is kind of important. Sometimes we think, well, hey, if we just spam 100 people in one go, we can gather some of those people into our network. Well, unfortunately, those shortcuts can cost us in the long run. So we don't want to be taking shortcuts. We want to be building our businesses in the right way. There is a commitment that's involved. And I think it does definitely start with you recognizing that you are an entrepreneur. And that is something to be really proud of. Us entrepreneurs, we're a special bunch, and we're a creative bunch, and we're folks who really understand that we have talents, that we have gifts that we can use, and we can share it with the world. And so, but you have to be committed to it. And with that commitment comes having a plan. And don't get me wrong, we will talk about some of these highlighted points now, but we will explore these in detail over the coming weeks and months. So even if you don't get all of the how today, you will definitely get some overviews, get some really good information. And as we build our knowledge, we will dive deeper into these topics throughout the coming weeks. The last thing is about measuring results, because if we don't measure it, it's difficult to know whether we're being successful. And sometimes if we wait till the very end to say, if this was my main goal and I'm not celebrating those successes along the way, sometimes I can get stuck. Sometimes I can feel discouraged. And so what we want to be doing is we want to be measuring our results along the way. So these will definitely help you build a healthy Healy business. All right. So last week in our webinar, we explored your involvement in direct sales. Okay. And we did so on purpose. That's how we started, because we really wanted you to feel comfortable. We wanted you to feel empowered when you're talking about your business. And no matter why you started your Healy business, whether it was a love for the product, whether you're here and you don't even know if you want to start a business or not, what we want to know is, why did you choose Healy? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ask you to use the chat, and I want you to write down some of those things that you reflected on after our webinar, or maybe even during your webinar, on what was it that attracted you to Healy, and why did you choose Healy in particular? And I'd also love to hear, if you're building the business, what convinced you to try. So go ahead and open up your chats, and we probably won't be able to read them all, but we would love to hear from you. So let's take a look. Best frequency device on the market. Awesome. Products. Yeah. Portable. Yeah. For my health. Absolutely. Could feel the potential. Oh, and I love that word. My not mine, our slogan is to tap into your potential. So I really can relate to that. Frequency healing. All right. So Marcus is the one that convinced Angela. Awesome. Quantum transformation. Love it. Oh, I love this. I got to go back to it. I chose Healy because I completely trusted the person I bought from. Well, now that just goes to show what we talked about last week. It's real. I love working with a team. I had excellent results. My health, future technology, new earth business. Wow. These are fantastic. Look at that. I'm convinced that frequencies are the medicine of tomorrow. Wow. Tapping into universal energy. Oh, I can get down with that. All right. Well, this is exciting. For those of you who've been convinced to try the business, what convinced you to actually try the business? Not just your Healy, but why did you want to start the business? For community. It's like a unicorn. Nothing in the world like it. Residual income. Love that. Community. And already just by spending just the short amount of time that I've been in this family, I can already tell and feel that that sense of community. So I really relate to these answers. I want to tell people about it. Hey, I also like the direct bonus. That is a bonus, isn't it? Awesome. I trusted my coworker. The frequency's helping us. Look at that. I wanted to share with others. Well, this is fantastic, and you can keep going and sharing your reasons why you got involved with Healy. What I can tell you is that people love to buy, and when we find a really great product like Healy, we know that there is great potential for us to share this with the world. And it's not just about selling a product, it's about helping others. And we talked about that last week. In fact, I pulled some stats down this morning. Do you know that just according to the DSA, just in Canada alone, we made $4.1 billion in sales in 2021 in the direct sales industry, 42.6 billion in the US, and 186 billion in annual sales in 2021. And this was all generated from direct sales products. What's really, really exciting about that is we have a piece of that, and we can impact those numbers too. So that's super exciting. When you decide to take the plunge into direct sales to become a business owner, we want to be developing a foundation, a strong foundation. And what I want us to do is take us to the next step. So last week, we really got clear on why. And now I've reminded you by asking you those questions on why you got involved. But what we want to do is we want to not just know why we got involved, we want to understand ourselves in a way that allows us to thrive and also create a plan and create the right habits from the onset. The stage is often set in the beginning, but like I said, don't panic. It's never too late to start. And some of you, as I've already mentioned, might already have these habits in place, and that's amazing. And what I would ask from you folks is that you share the importance of the message today about really establishing good habits. But let's start with some of these things that we want to be continuing to do as we kind of kickstart our business. We want you to keep your start simple. So simple, in fact, that we've created an action sheet, what we call an action sheet. So you'll get some of these throughout our time together. And this action sheet is called My Getting Started Checklist. It's very simple. It's 8 steps. And so, in fact, I know you don't have access to this today, but you don't need it for today's webinar. However, it will be put up in your back office in the next couple of days, and you'll be able to access that. So you'll be able to use that, take some notes down today, and then use this as a guide to make sure that you are not forgetting any of these important aspects
Shannon,
of making sure that your start is strong. Yes, Jody.
I just wanted to say I actually did put the English version into the chat if people want to download it, but it will also be available in English and Spanish after the webinar.
Awesome. This is fantastic. The reason why we've simplified this and giving you a really simple guide to follow is because we want you to avoid the rabbit hole. And it is oftentimes what we see people when they start a new business, especially if it's something that has some science behind it. Oftentimes we can get caught up in the rabbit hole. And what it does is it stalls us. We think, oh no, I don't know enough. I can't start. I don't know enough. I'm not going to be credible. I need to learn more. And so what we want you to do is to be able to leverage your start, the excitement of your start, take what you need right now and build going forward, but that you don't go down a rabbit hole that actually gets in the way. There's a lot to learn when you start your Healy business. I won't say that that's not the case, but you don't have to learn it all at once. It might seem a bit counterintuitive to simplify it, But actually simplifying it is actually what makes you grow, and it helps you set that foundation and get off to a strong start. We want you to start with your mindset. So I'm going to go through the 8 steps, okay? And then we're going to talk about them each individually in a minute. Start with your mindset. This is all about how you are going to grow, getting rid of the negative influences, the negative self-talk. We want you to start discovering your values. Now, I showed you a few slides ago that we're going to actually uncover our core values together in one of our webinars coming up. So even though I'm asking you to start considering these things now, we will give you even more time and a deeper dive in how to do that with a method that we've created, which is really, really simple, but super powerful. We want you to start setting goals, and we want you to start discovering your purpose. Creating a daily activity plan is incredibly useful for folks who are building a direct sales business. And you may already have one right now, but again, something that we're going to dive into even further in coming weeks and months. We want you to start connecting. Now, this can be on social media, this can be in person. It will depend on you. It'll depend on how you build your network. But you definitely have to be intentional when it comes to your connections when you start a business. You want to take it seriously. You want to be considered an entrepreneur. So you need to do what entrepreneurs do. We want you to start getting social, and we want you to start taking action. So what does all of that mean exactly? Well, I could stop here. This would be a great social media post. However, what we want to do is actually give you practical things that you can actually walk away with and know what to do right from the onset. I love this quote that I'm about to show you. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Don't get caught in the rabbit hole. You don't need to know it all right away. So one of the biggest hurdles, of course, is knowing where to start. But unfortunately, many members never get out the gate because they don't know what to do to build that foundation. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to share it with you. So it starts with who you are. And these are the first 4 topics that I just brought up in the previous slide. Start with your mindset. So what does that mean? It means having a positive mindset, because having a positive mindset will be key to really pushing through some of those challenges. Start discovering your core values. Knowing what's important to you will help you make the decisions that are right for you in your business, not what's right for somebody else. See, that's the beauty about starting your own business, right? You get to build it the way that you want to build it. You get to put in as much effort as you want based on the goals that you want to achieve. Start with setting goals. And setting goals can sometimes, I've done workshops on setting goals many dozens and dozens of times, and I'll always find a group of people in our workshops who will say, "Oh, I hate setting goals." Well, sometimes it's because we're not really doing it in a practical way. And so we want to set goals that are actually aligned with our core values. That's why we're going to talk about core values first. And then we're going to decide what we want. And then we're going to decide on how we're going to get there and the steps that we need to put in place to get there. But we're not going to do it all at once. We're going to do it step by step so that we don't get overwhelmed by our goals and that they're achievable and that we're measuring results. And we want to start discovering our purpose. What is the reason why we're involved with Healy? What is it that we could do if we could build successful businesses? I know I had to ask that myself when I started TAP. What could I do if my business was successful? And then my narrative changed and said, what will I do when my business is successful? And now I'm living it. And so it is quite possible to live out your purpose, to discover your purpose, live it out, and use it as an anchor, because you will need that anchor on the tough days, on the days when somebody has said no, on the days when you're frustrated because shipping isn't going as planned. Maybe you've got a team member who perhaps has decided they want to do something different. There will be discouragement. There'll be obstacles. That's expected. That's life. But it's your purpose that gives you that driving force. It gives you an anchor to keep going, even when the going gets tough. Let's approach this with a practical, down-to-earth mindset, okay? To set yourself up for success, what you want to do is be practical about these things. But motivation is what will get you started. Habits are what's going to keep you going. So, of course, it makes sense for us to think about what are the habits that we need to put in place. It's not enough to be excited. Have you ever been excited about a New Year's resolution that you've made, a new goal that you've decided to achieve? And when the motivation fades, so does your ability to achieve the goal. That is often because sometimes we don't put in the habits. We don't put in the work that's required. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is required for us to build those habits. As we go through the next few activities, I'd like to share just a little bit of experienced wisdom, maybe, so to speak. Try to avoid the negative influences in your life and surround yourself with positivity. Starting a new business is kind of like, I don't know, planting a seed. That's really what it's like. And you have to nurture it and you have to protect it. Avoiding negativity and surrounding yourself with people who will support you is going to make this time as you're building those habits much easier. All right. So let's take a look at what action do we need to put into place to make sure that we're successful. How's that sound? All right. So it's going to continue with what you do. So I said it starts with who you are, and now we're going to continue with what you do. And these are your habits. Some of the things that we believe and we have seen in our clients in the field in many different direct sales spaces, these are the keys. Start a daily activity plan. Creating the right habits are going to allow you to focus on the right activities, and they will help you create those consistent behaviors. And consistency is absolutely key. So we want to make sure that we're doing this. Now, you may have your own daily activity plan that you've already got in place. Perhaps you've found one online, maybe an upline or crossline has shared one with you. Perhaps you were involved in another business and you had one there and you developed something that worked for you, and that's great. What we will tell you is we will also provide for you a daily activity plan, and we'll help you create it in one of our workshops upcoming. So if you don't have something, don't panic. What we want you to do right now is create a loose plan until such time when we can get into it deeper, okay? Start connecting. Now, I'm not just talking about writing down a list of people and spamming them. That's not what in fact, I'm not talking about that at all. That's cringy behavior. You don't want to do that. We want you to create quality connections with people so that you can expand the conversation, so that you can understand what people need, what they want, what are the problems that they're facing, what are their challenges, so that you can help them find a solution. You do need to start getting social and make those connections so that you can get your Healy in front of people. It's going to be incredibly important to you. And start taking action. Probably the key in all of this. It doesn't matter how good or how motivated you are, how excited you are, or how good your Healy is. If you don't act on it, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to build it itself. Even though the Healy may sell itself because it's so great, unfortunately, if you don't get your Healy in front of people, how is it going to sell itself? So you want to make sure that you aren't just talking the talk. I want you to be walking the walk. Okay. All right. So as you are doing this, though, I can say that there'll be some things that might get in the way. And so maybe some key tips so that you can create those behaviors and habits that you need to build a strong and sustainable business. You want to make sure that you're protecting your time, that you're making sure that you're spending your time on the right things. So reducing distractions is very, very important. So whether you set aside an hour a day to work on your Healy business or to connect with people, you don't want to be distracted by other things. You want to be focused. You want to be putting your focus in on your Healy business, and you want to put your energy in it. Don't share that energy. Make sure that you keep it for what you're doing in that moment. Be present in that moment. Do one thing at a time. And of course, focus on the things that matter. Things like binge watching TV, hours on social media scrolling, interruptions from family and friends. These are all things that are going to happen in life. That's life. Or maybe they're things that you do just to unwind. No judgment here. Learning something new takes a lot of mental and emotional brain power. So you want to reduce the noise in the moments that you're dedicating to your Healy business. Okay. Multitasking. Hey, who didn't put multitasking as one of their characteristics on their resume as they were looking for jobs? Well, interestingly enough, even though it used to be considered a superpower, we're learning now that focusing on one task at a time is actually what's key to crushing chaos and boosting productivity. And you may be working hard on starting your business, but are you working on the right things? And so perhaps you've convinced yourself that being on social media for hours at a time, you're working your business. When you're honest with yourself and when you know the right things to be doing when you're on social media, you'll be able to make sure that you're not just being busy for busy's sake, that you're actually being productive, and that you're learning to focus on the things that will really matter to you and your business. All right. So let's get granular, shall we, on how to do that by creating some good habits. I'm going to give you some keys here. Here we go. I don't sell magic pills, sorry. However, we will give you some great tips to create some healthy habits that will help you. And I'm going to ask you a question in a couple of minutes, because I've said that those last four actions, those last four things to starting strong, are really about taking action. And I'm going to ask you to think about, as I go through them, which one you think you'd like to focus on first. Because remember, I said we want to focus on one thing at a time, right? So the first thing to do when you're building a habit is to make sure that you choose one habit that you are working on. So we've given you 4. Start a daily activity plan, create quality connections consistently, form a new social media habit, or break a bad one, or do what you say you're going to do and be consistent in your behaviors. So I am going to open the chat now, and I would like you, I'm curious, out of the folks that are here, which one do you want to focus on for the next little while? Let's take a look. Let's see what folks are saying. Daily activity plan, Allison says. All right. Oh, you're going to love our webinar on creating one. Quality connection, social media. Love it. Awesome. Do what I say I'm going to do. Yeah, that's a good one. Love this. All right. There's a method to my madness, folks. Because did you know that when you write something down, the chances of you following through with it go up? And if you share it with a group of your peers, that it increases your chances of following through again? The last thing you'd want to do is actually tell someone and ask them to help you stay accountable. And that will absolutely significantly increase your chances of following through. So that's going to be my challenge to you, is if you wrote what you want to work on, I want you to tell someone, choose someone in your mind right now that you're going to share with and say, I want to work on my social media strategy, or I need to start a daily activity plan, or I need to make sure that I'm consistent and do what I say I'm going to do. I want you to tell someone, but you can't choose a yes man. Okay. Do you know what I mean by yes man? A yes man is someone who says that you do no wrong. They allow you to have excuses. So you can't tell that person. You got to tell someone you respect, someone who values what you do and supports you. And then you're going to tell them what you want to work on, and you're going to ask them to keep you accountable to this little goal. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. That was fantastic. All right. So that was the first step. Let's take a look at the next step. Set the goal. All right. So let's ask our audience, whatever one you chose, I want you to get into the chat now and think about a goal, a small one, that might help you achieve it. So let's see. Let's take a look. How might you form a new social media habit? Okay, talk to 2 new people a day. I love it. From our Healy fan. Not sure who that is, but daily social media posts. Thanks, Sherry. Okay. Learn how to use social media. What a great way to start. Love it. And I'm sure, Carol, there's lots of people who could help. Go back to writing down each day what I'm going to accomplish. Sounds like you used to do it. So reach out to 10 people, follow up with 3. Love it. I'll block out time to work on my activity plan. Yes. You see, this is not so hard, is it? Sometimes it just means taking the time to focus on what you need to do. Love it. Create my daily activity plan every evening at 9 p.m. before the next day. I love it, Alexandra. Thank you for sharing. Wow. Excellent. What I will tell you, this is a little tidbit that wasn't part of the training. Blocking time to make this happen will ensure it gets done. So if you're someone who uses your Outlook calendar, let's say, block an hour in there and make sure it gets done. And then it's in there. Jody can tell you, if I don't put it in my calendar, it doesn't get done. And it's just that simple. So everything that's important to me goes in my calendar, whether it's walking the dog, going to the gym, or paying the bills. It all goes into my calendar.
Well, and I also say, Shannon, that for me, sometimes putting it in my calendar is not enough. So I have to say something like, I'm not allowed to have my first cup of coffee until I finish this. So I reward myself for doing it.
Well, Jody is giving a precursor to what we're going to talk about in just a minute, and that's the reward that comes with the habits. So let's take a look at that. But before we do, we got to finish all the steps. Okay, you folks, I want you to keep writing in here. And the reason why I'm asking you to keep writing in here is because if you write it down, you're more likely to get it done. Okay. All right. So let's keep going here. I'm just going to close out my chat so I can see my screen. All right, so start the goal. Design a clear and easy to follow routine. So I love that. There was a couple of comments in here of every night at 9 o'clock, I'm going to do this. Love it. So that's a clear and easy way to follow a routine. So get in the habit of being in that routine. Then stay consistent. So perhaps you don't work every day on your Healy business. That's okay. Perhaps you've chosen that you want to work 3 days a week, or perhaps you work 6 days a week. I don't know. It depends on who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. Doesn't matter. What I would say is that you stay consistent with that habit. So you do something that works towards it every single day. Okay. Again, every single work day. Track your progress and measure your results and celebrate the wins. You know what? So many people do the first 5 and then they stop. And they don't take the time to celebrate the small victories along the way. And what I would say to you is that is really, really key to keep your motivation high. So don't forget that. Even if it's just a small thing, like, you know what? I said I was going to do this 5 days in a row and I did it. Yay for me. Okay, make sure you're celebrating those small wins. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit about what Jody was talking about, and that is the habit loop. Habits work through something called a habit loop. With each reward, the habit is reinforced. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of science. We've got some points on the slide that you can kind of follow through the things I'm going to talk about. And so, you know, for those of you who really like all the details, I'm going to give you all the details now to show you that the habit loop is a real thing. And perhaps many of you are already familiar with it. And so bear with us as we share this knowledge with those who don't know it yet, okay? So the habit loop is really supported by research in behavioral psychology and neuroscience. And it really talks to how habits are formed and then how we can create effective habits that have a positive change in our lives, of course. And they consist of these three things: the trigger, the routine, and the reward. Okay. So research shows us that the trigger acts as a cue. All right. This activates a specific neural pathway in our brains, and it prompts the initiation of the trigger. Of the habit. So these can be external things like the time of day. So like the example I gave from the chat, 9 p.m. every day, this is what I'm going to do. It can also be a visual cue. When I see this, this is what I'm going to do. But it can also be internal. So it can be triggered by an emotion that you're feeling. These triggers create a link between the cue and the routine, and it establishes this habit behavior. The routine is the response that follows the trigger. So what is going to happen after 9 p.m.? Okay. What is going to happen when I feel like this? What is going to happen when I see this? Okay. It can be conscious, but it can also be automatic and subconscious. Sometimes that's what happens when we have those bad habits, right? We're feeling down, so we do something to make us feel better. That's the reward. Okay, so as we repeat these actions each time, and there's routine over time, research actually suggests that our brains develop neural connections, and it makes the habit more automatic. What's really key is not only does it make it more automatic, it takes less effort for us to actually follow through with the behavior. Now, crucially, the reward is very important, okay? It plays a key habit in reinforcing the behavior, okay? And research indicates that it also releases dopamine. Now, isn't that interesting? And so this is often, I guess, associated with pleasure or associated with motivation. And so that dopamine release reinforces the habit loop, and it makes us doing the behavior feel good. It makes us, or it feels more appealing to us, or seems more appealing to us. So then we desire to repeat it, okay? So by understanding how habits work, it allows us to actually get involved in our own habits. Habits sometimes do form without us thinking about it. Certainly bad habits do. And so, but we can break the habit loop for bad habits, and we can activate the habit loop for good habits. So let's take a look at these points on the side here. Triggers activate specific neural pathways. They can be external or they can be internal. Routines are behavioral responses. So that's the behavior that follows the trigger. Repetition strengthens and makes it more automatic. It increases our desire. The reward triggers dopamine. So now we've got the motivation to continue with the habit, and making sure that we understand how it works allows us to control things. It allows us to create good habits. Effective triggers, aligned routines, and rewards are absolutely key to making sure that you are doing the right things and starting your business on a strong foundation. Now, what I will say, and I think it's important for us to understand that everyone is different, okay? We're not all the same. We're not all robots. We all respond differently. And so for some, this may come easy, and for some, it may be more difficult. And so, but stay consistent. I would say consistency is absolutely key here in forming those habit loops. The other piece that I want us to consider before we kind of get off the topic of the habit loop is ensuring that even though I've gone into detail on how to create these habits, and I've given you 4 habits to work on over the coming weeks, I want to remind you that it's a process. I want to remind you that we're all different, okay? I want to remind you that there are distractions, that there are things that get in the way. I don't want you to come down on yourself. I want you to be kind to yourself, not critical, okay? Now, for some of us, people like me, I am very self-critical, and this is something I have to be very intentional about. So the ways in which you can remove that criticism, that self-criticism, the ways in which you can be kind to yourself is to practice self-compassion. When you're faced with those setbacks, remind yourself it's normal, okay? It's part of the learning process. Treat yourself as you would treat someone you're supporting. Celebrate small victories. Acknowledge and appreciate the progress you've made. And it doesn't matter how small it is, celebrate it anyway, okay? Reframe the negative self-talk. If you notice that you were talking to yourself in a negative manner, ensure that you change the narrative, okay? Replace that judgment with an affirmation. And set boundaries, okay? So understand, you don't always have to be working on this all the time, all right? You want to set boundaries. You also want to set boundaries for other people so that if people are getting in the way of you having or creating these healthy habits, that you make sure that you set a boundary to say, listen, this is important to me. Please don't try to interrupt the growth that I am experiencing. Something very important for you to know, and I can't say this enough, I said it in the beginning, there are so many times when folks get stuck before they get started because they think they need to know it all before they start. You do not need to know it all before you start. Start with the basics. Embrace a growth mindset, which means that positive mindset, you can do it, you have potential, you can learn new things. You have this. You've got this. Take action. Doesn't matter how good I am. Doesn't matter how good Jody is. Doesn't matter how good your upline are. If you don't do the work, it won't get done. And the last thing is learn from your mistakes. It is absolutely imperative for you to make mistakes. They're coming. You will make mistakes. It's okay. Just learn from them. This is when we grow the most, is when we've made a mistake, because now we have an aha moment that we can learn from. I hope that's helpful. As you think about these things, and I know I've given you a lot in the last few minutes, haven't I? Remember to embrace patience, celebrate progress, take action, cultivate resilience. And I am telling you, you will unlock your potential. Again, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. You don't need to know it all from the beginning. It's okay. You build the foundation now, and we will learn more in days and weeks to come, I promise you. But you don't have to wait, all right? That is our webinar for today. I hope that you enjoyed it. But before you go, there's a few things that I'm going to ask from you. All right. Next week, we are going to explore onboarding. Again, if you have new members, if you have a growing team, or you're interested in growing a team, ensure that you are here or that you watch the recording. There's going to be some really great information that's very specific to your Healy business. So make sure that you've marked your calendars here. I wanted to show you these upcoming again. We have onboarding, of course, on June 26th. We've got core values on June 10th, belief and behaviors on July 17th. But after that, we still have many, many more topics. We're going to be talking about networking. We're going to talk about your influence, prospecting, questions and hesitations, setting goals, priority planning, overcoming obstacles, following up, creating your story, and the power of recognition. All this and more in the weeks and months to come. What I can tell you is after last week's webinar, we looked to see what people thought. I'm going to give you a moment to read through some of these comments. It was really exciting. I'm going to invite you to do the same thing again. Listen, we won't be able to bring you the content that you need if you don't tell us what you need. And I can guarantee you, we go through this feedback with a fine-tooth comb, and we are looking for information that will make us better, and we will give you the information you need to empower you in your business. We want to support you. We want to help you, okay? We want to give you solutions to the challenges that you're facing. So ensure that when you do the survey in a few minutes, that you take the time to please give us the feedback, good or bad. It's okay. If there's something you'd rather see, if there's something else you'd like to talk about, if there's something we did well, if there's something that we could do better, please don't hesitate to give us that information. I'm also going to share this with you for the greater group, just because it's important. I know that these are by invitation only. They're specifically for our leaders. And so we have a leader call that's coming up on July 11th. I'm sorry, I've said that was number 1 of 12 leader calls, but it's actually number 2. I realize I've made that mistake now. So number 2, and it's going to be talking about starting strong again. These are quite different. So these aren't like the webinars. These are facilitated intimate conversations with breakout sessions and discussions. It's where I do less talking, and we share information with each other and we support each other. So if you are, if you are working on your business and you're ranking up and you are looking forward to becoming part of this leader call, I cannot wait to have you. If you are a leader, please don't miss this. We don't record these. We'll give you some highlights on a document, but these are things that we want you to celebrate with us and engage with us in a live setting. So make sure that you write those in your calendars as well. And again, here's a bit of a snapshot on what we'll be talking about in those later calls. All right. Just leave that on the screen for a second. Give you a second to look through it. So as you can see, we're actually talking about a lot of the same topics in our leader calls, but they are very, very different. They're facilitated important conversations that take place. We want people to come expecting to go on camera. We want people to come expecting to talk to each other. That's the type of environment it is, okay? All right, so that is our webinar for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for allowing me to share the space with you. Jody, have you put the survey up for folks to fill out? Please,
Yes,
please do this for us.
We would love it if you would take the last 5 minutes to complete the survey so that we can make sure every one of these webinars is just better and better and better every single week and month.
Thank you so much, folks.
Shannon, I'm going to stop the recording just so that as we're leaving, but feel free, folks, to stay on to complete your webinar, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. I'm watching the chat. I'm seeing you. Thank you.